You know, we tend to walk around with this illusion of total unbridled freedom. You wake up, you pour your coffee, you open your mouth, and you feel like you can say whatever you want, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
It feels limitless.
Right.
But what if I told you that every time you speak, every single sentence, from pass the salt to a wedding vow, you are actually navigating a high-stakes maze?
And it's not just a maze. It's a maze with invisible electric fences, checkpoints, and some very strict traffic cops who are handing out tickets inside your brain before you even get the words out.
Exactly. We're talking about laws of physics, but for words. Today, on The Deep Dive, we are cracking open a dense, fascinating stack of papers titled Principles and Parameters, The Theory of Government.
Yeah.
We're looking specifically at the foundational work surrounding Howard Lasnik and Noam Chomsky.
This is really the bedrock of modern linguistics. It's an attempt to map the hidden architecture of the human mind. It's, less about grammar rules you learn in school and more about the biological code running in your head.
And before you tune out because you heard the word government, let me just clear the air.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with politics.
This has nothing to do with elections, taxes, or filibusters.
Right. Though, funny enough, it is entirely about power.
Okay, let's unpack that. The mission for this deep dive is simple. We're going to find out why some sentences sound clunky, why others sound like total nonsense, and we're going to discover that your brain is actually, well, I won't say lazy.
I would strongly prefer the term economical.
We'll see about that by the end.
Yeah.
So, the theory of government. When I see that in the source material, I'm assuming we're talking about a hierarchy. In syntax, who is governing whom?
In syntax, government is a local command relation. It's about structural hierarchy.
Right.
To visualize this, you have to imagine a sentence not as a flat line of words, but as a tree.
Like a family tree.
A family tree, or maybe a corporate org chart. That's a better way to think about it.
Okay, I've got the org chart. Who's the CEO?
It's strictly local. So for one word, let's call it alpha to govern. Another word, beta alpha, has to be sitting higher up in the structure.
Right.
We call this command. Alpha looks down, sees beta, and crucially, there's nothing standing in the way to protect beta.
So it's like a middle manager looking down at an employee from a balcony.
Yeah.
If there's a clear line of sight, the manager governs the employee.
Precisely. And this isn't just abstract theory. This relationship is the engine that allows sentences to function. Take case theory.
Okay.
You know how we say I saw him instead of I saw he?
Sure. Him is the object, he is the subject. We learned that in grade school. It's just the rule.
But why is it the rule? The source explains that a verb, like saw, has a job to do. It has to assign case to its object.
It gives it the him badge.
Exactly, but it can only do that if it governs the object.
So the verb has to be the boss, looking down at the noun, with no walls in between to hand out the ID badge.
That's it. If the verb can't see the noun, it can't give it the badge. And if a noun doesn't get a badge, if it doesn't get case the derivation, it just crashes.
Give us an example of a crash, because I feel like we break grammar rules all the time in casual conversation.
We break stylistic rules, sure, but we rarely break these deep structural rules. The source gives a great contrast. Consider the sentence, we found the book.
Simple enough.
The verb found is right next to book. It governs it, assigns case. Simple.
Right.
Now consider, we tried the book to win a prize.
We tried the book to win a prize. That sounds broken.
Yeah.
It sounds like the book is the one trying to win, or that we put the book on trial or something.
Exactly. The intended meaning is probably we tried to get the book to win or something similar, but the structure we tried the book blocks the verb tried from governing book in the way needed to make sense of the action.
So the book is left without a badge.
The book is left without case in the right semantic slot. It's like showing up to work and security stops you at the door because you don't have your badge. You can't enter the building. The sentence fails.
Okay, so we have the boss, the governor, and the employee, the governed. But you mentioned walls. What protects a word from being governed? Because sometimes you don't want the boss looking at you.
Barriers.
That sounds dramatic. Barriers.
It's dramatic for the sentence. A barrier is usually a phrase, an XP in the technical notation. That is not a complement.
Okay, definitions time. We need to clear this up. What is a complement?
Think of it as the thing the verb is strictly looking for. In eat an apple is the complement. It's selected by the verb.
It's the VIP guest.
It's the VIP guest. The verb needs it to complete the thought. Barriers are the things strictly not selected in that direct way.
So if you're the direct object, you're exposed. You get governed. If you're tucked away somewhere else, you're behind a barrier.
Generally, yes. And this becomes a massive issue when we try to do the most human thing possible.
Hmm.
Move words around.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because we don't just speak in simple statements like John ate an apple. We ask questions. We say, which apple did John eat?
Right, implying John ate which apple.
We took the phrase, which apple, and dragged it to the front of the room.
Exactly. And the source makes a crucial point here. When you move a word, it's not just gone from its original spot. It leaves behind a ghost.
A ghost.
A trace. In the source text, it's marked with a little t. So structurally, the sentence is, which book did you read? T. That trace marks the spot where the book used to be.
Okay, so we have a ghost in the machine. What does the ghost do?
It holds the parking spot. It preserves the meaning. But here is the golden rule of syntax. That trace must be properly governed.
Wow.
You cannot just leave a ghost stranded behind a wall.
So if I move a word to cross a barrier.
You sever the lifeline, the trace is unguarded, the sentence sounds wrong. Let's look at an example from the text involving a we word, which is just a fancy term for question words like who, what, where.
Right. Let's try a complicated one that actually works first. I wonder which book John told the students that they should read.
Long sentence, but how does it sound?
I wonder which book John told the students that they should read. It sounds fine. A bit wordy, maybe, but fine. My brain tracks it.
Because every step of that movement was valid. No barriers were crossed. The path was clear.
Oh?
Now try this one. I wonder which book John met someone who read.
I wonder which book John met someone who read. Oof. Yeah. That lands with a thud. I wonder which book John met someone who read. It feels like I'm tripping over my own tongue.
Why? Because someone who read is a relative clause. It acts as a barrier. You tried to drag which book out of that fortress, and the trace got cut off.
It's like a heist movie, where you get out of the vault, but you get stuck in the lobby because you triggered the silent alarm.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
You made it out with the word, but the alarm, the trace, is going off behind you. But notice something else the source points out. There are levels of wrongness.
Yeah, I saw this in the notes. Some sentences are marked with question marks, which means, right. Weird, and some get a star, which means absolute garbage.
Exactly. Extracting an argument like which book or who over a barrier is bad. It's deviant. But extracting an adjunct like how or why is catastrophic.
Wait, remind me. Argument versus adjunct. Why does the brain care about the difference?
An argument is a key player. Who did it? What was eaten? It's the cast of the movie. An adjunct is extra info, how, why, when. It's the lighting or the soundtrack.
Okay, so why is moving how worse than moving what?
Let's test it. Here's the catastrophe. I wonder how John met someone who fixed the car.
I wonder how John met someone who fixed the car.
Wait, that sounds like I'm asking how John met the person.
Right.
Like, did he meet them on Tinder or at a bar?
Exactly. You automatically interpret how as modifying met, but try to interpret how as modifying fixed. Like, in what manner did the person fix the car? Did they fix it with a wrench? Did they fix it quickly? Try to force that meaning. I wonder how John met someone who fixed the car. You're right. I can't do it. My brain refuses to connect how to fixed. It's physically impossible to build that bridge.
Because how is an adjunct. It's not essential to the verb fix, the way car is. The source tells us that arguments, the essential stuff, are a little bit stronger. They can survive a rough journey better than adjuncts can.
They're more robust.
Adjuncts are fragile. If you pull how or why across a barrier, the sentence doesn't just sound clunky, it completely disintegrates.
So what and who are like off-road vehicles. They can take a few bumps and still get there. How and why were sports cars, one pothole, one barrier, and they're totaled.
Precisely. The how trace is so weak that if you put a barrier in front of it, the brain just loses track of it entirely. But barriers aren't the only things that stop movement. Sometimes it's not a wall that stops you.
It's another person.
It's another person.
This brings us to the intruder. The source talks about something called relativized minimality, which I have to say is a mouthful of a name. It sounds like a bad sci-fi movie.
It is a dense term, but the concept is, well, it's pretty intuitive. It's the intervening element principle. Basically, you cannot govern a word if someone else of the same type is standing in the middle.
It's the, hey, I'm walking here rule.
I like that. Imagine you're standing in a queue. You can't just skip the person in front of you if they're doing the exact same thing you're trying to do.
The source breaks this down into 3 types. Let's run through them because I think this explains a lot of the mistakes people make when learning English. First up, head movement.
Right. Words like verbs and auxiliary verbs like Will or have are heads. The rule is you can't jump one head over another head.
The example in the text is hilarious. How fix John will the car?
It sounds like Yoda having a stroke.
It does.
You're trying to move the main verb fix to the front, but will is in the way. Will is a head. Fix is a head. You can't jump it. You have to move will. How will John fix the car?
Okay, type 2, A positions. This is usually about subjects, right?
Right. You can't take a noun and jump it over another subject. The example is superraising.
John seems that IT is certain to fix the car.
You can't move John from the bottom all the way to the top because IT is sitting in the middle acting as a subject. It blocks the path.
You're trying to steal its job.
You are. And the third one, which I think is the most common brain teaser for our listeners, the why island.
Ah, yes.
This is about those question words again. What words?
So you can't jump a question word over another question word.
Exactly. Look at this sentence. I guess how John wondered why we fixed the car.
I guess how John wondered why we fixed the car.
The structure forces how to be stuck. You cannot connect how to fixed because why is standing in the middle guarding the gate.
Because why is also a question word.
Why is a what word. How is a what word. The path is blocked.
It's fascinating because even if I try to force it, my brain just snaps back to the nearest interpretation. I can't physically make the mental link to the end of the sentence.
That's the minimality part. The connection has to be minimal, the closest possible link. If there's a closer potential target, you can't skip it. The brain is looking for the nearest hook to hang the meaning on.
Speaking of things you can't skip, I want to talk about one of the weirdest glitches in the English language. The source spends a lot of time on this, and honestly, it feels like a bug in the code, the that trace effect.
Ah, yes. The bane of English learners everywhere. It makes no logical sense until you look at the structure.
Okay, listener, try this. Who did you say left?
Perfectly fine. Who did you say left?
Now try this. Who did you say that left?
Who did you say that left? Buzz. Wrong.
Why? We say, I said that he left.
Oh.
Use that all the time. Why does it murder the sentence just because we ask who?
This goes back to government. Remember, the ghost, the trace needs a proper governor.
Okay.
When you move who from the subject position, it leaves a trace. Now, looking down at that trace is the word that. In linguistics, that is a complementizer, or C.
Okay, so that is the boss in this situation.
But the source argues that that is a terrible boss. It lacks lexical features. It's structurally necessary, but it's empty. It doesn't have the juice to license or validate the trace.
So that is looking at the ghost of who and saying, I don't have the authority to approve your paperwork.
Exactly. But, and here's the weird part, if that is invisible, if it's null, like in, who did you say blank left? We assume there's a special mechanism, a sort of handshake agreement, that allows the invisible version to license the trace.
Wait, what?
But the moment you pronounce the word that, it acts as a blocker.
This is so arbitrary. It's
Yeah.
like saying the door is open, but if you put a sign on the door saying door, suddenly it's locked.
It feels arbitrary, but it's consistent with the math of the system. But wait, here's the twist the source throws at us.
Okay.
Try this sentence. Why do you think that John left?
Why do you think that John left? That sounds fine.
But why moved? Why left a trace? And that is sitting right there. Why didn't it crash? Who crashed? Why survived?
Yeah, you just said that is a bad boss.
Yeah.
Why does why get a pass? Usually you said arguments like who are stronger than adjuncts like why.
Right.
This is the reverse. Why is the fragile sports car,
Right.
but it made it over the bump.
This is where the source references Lasnik and Saito. They propose something mind-bending. They suggest that different types of words have different deadlines.
Deadlines, like filing your taxes.
Sort of. Arguments, subjects like who need to have their paperwork stamped immediately at the surface level structure, what we hear right now. If that is there, they fail. Game over.
Okay, so who is on a tight schedule? It needs the validation right now.
But adjuncts like why or how are different. They don't need their paperwork checked until the very end of the process, a stage called logical form, or LF.
And what happens at logical form?
The source suggests that at LF, semantically empty words like that might just disappear. They get deleted because they aren't needed for pure logic.
No way. So for who, the word that is an obstacle because who needs to be checked now? But why? Can just wait until that disappears and then get checked.
That is the theory. Who fails the immediate test? Why passes the delayed test?
This implies our brain is processing language on multiple timelines simultaneously. We're checking some rules now and some rules later, all in the split second it takes to speak.
It absolutely is. And that leads us to the difference between something sounding clunky and something being impossible.
Okay.
The source distinguishes between subjacency and the ECP, the empty category principle.
Right. Subjacency is about the walls we talked about earlier.
Subjacency constraints apply to overt movement, what we physically hear. If you cross too many barriers, you violate subjacency. It sounds bad, but you can kind of figure it out.
It's like a traffic violation. You ran a red light. It's illegal. It's dangerous. But the car still runs and you might still get to your destination.
But the ECP, the empty category principle, that applies to the logic of the sentence, the logical form. If a trace isn't properly governed at that deep logical level, the sentence is. It's just nonsense to the brain.
That's a total engine failure.
And the source uses Chinese to prove this.
Oh, right. The Chinese example. I loved this because it shows how universal these rules are, even if languages sound totally different.
So in English, we move question words to the front. What did you buy? But in Chinese, you leave the word way it is. You say roughly, you buy what?
So they don't move the word out loud.
Which means they don't violate subjacency. You can't crash into a wall if you don't drive the car.
Smart. So Chinese speakers never have these grammar crashes.
However, the source argues that at the logical level in the brain, the word does move. It has to move to make it a question. The brain has to lift what out to understand the scope of the question.
So the movement is invisible. It's phantom movement.
Yes. And here is the kicker. Chinese speakers still can't mix why and what in certain complex ways. Even though they don't move the words out loud, the invisible movement inside the brain still hits those ECP barriers we talked about.
That is wild. So the invisible traffic cop is still writing tickets inside a Chinese speaker's head, even though the words didn't physically move in the air.
Exactly. It suggests these laws of government aren't just about English or Chinese grammar rules. They are biological constraints on how humans process information.
So what does this all mean? We've got barriers, government, invisible traces, delayed deadlines. Is the brain just trying to be difficult? Why make it so hard? Why not just let us say whatever?
The source concludes with a unifying theory that answers that. It's called economy of derivation.
Which I called laziness in the intro.
Efficiency. The why behind all these complex rules is actually very simple. Minimize chain links.
Shortest move possible.
The brain wants to get from point A to point B with the least amount of effort. It doesn't want to cross a barrier if it doesn't have to. It doesn't want to skip a step if it can avoid it.
The source mentions a star system, right? Like a rating system.
Yes. The idea is that every time you violate this economy, every time you make a link too long or cross a barrier, the derivation gets a star.
A demerit.
1 star. Maybe acceptable, but weird. 2 stars. Bad. 3 stars. Unintelligible.
So our brains are constantly calculating the cost of a sentence. It's like Google Maps looking for the fastest route.
Exactly. The source says movement and deletion are last resort principles. You only move a word if you absolutely have to create a legitimate object, a sentence that makes sense.
If you can stay put, you stay put.
That's right.
It's the IKEA theory of language. Don't use extra screws if you don't need them.
And if you try to build a cabinet by stretching a piece of wood across the room, making a long link, the whole thing collapses. The brain is trying to build a stable structure with the minimum amount of material.
So let's wrap this up. We started with government, the idea that words command each other like bosses and employees.
Which led us to barriers, the walls that block that command.
And finally, we realized that all these walls and rules are really just the brain's way of enforcing economy.
Right. Being as efficient as possible.
Language isn't just a list of arbitrary rules we learn in school.
Not at all. It's an optimized system. It's designed to transport information with the minimum structural distance.
It makes you think about every sentence you speak differently. You're not just talking, you're executing a high-speed optimized algorithm.
And stumbling over the occasional barrier.
Now, here is a thought to leave you with. The source mentions that deletion is impermissible in a uniform chain. Basically, don't delete stuff if you don't have to.
Right.
But if the brain is so obsessed with economy, if it's so obsessed with doing the least amount of work possible, why do we have language that allows for poetry or philosophy or this deep dive?
That's the big question.
Why isn't the most economical language just pointing at food and grunting? That seems like the most efficient route of all.
Perhaps the tension is the point. We have infinite creativity, but it's forced through this narrow economical funnel.
And maybe that friction is exactly where the beauty comes from. Thanks for diving in with us.
Always a pleasure.
Keep listening, keep thinking, and watch out for those barriers. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.